Psychology of people who talk to themselves when alone before you click away or start wondering if this even applies to you. Here's the truth. If you've ever caught yourself speaking out loud when you're alone and felt even a flicker of doubt about it, you're about to understand exactly why you do it, and why it might actually mean your mind is working better, not worse. So stay with this, because by the end, you won't just feel reassured, you'll see this habit in a completely different light. Picture this for a second. You're alone in your kitchen, maybe cutting vegetables or making tea, and without even realizing it, words start slipping out. All right, do this first. No, wait, that goes later. Don't forget the salt. It's automatic, almost like you're narrating your own life. Then suddenly, awareness kicks in. You pause. You look around. Silence. And then comes that thought. Why am I talking to myself? It feels strange for a moment, like you've crossed some invisible line. But here's the thing. Nothing is wrong. Not even close. In fact, what you're experiencing is incredibly common. Nearly everyone has some form of inner dialogue running in their mind throughout the day. That quiet stream of thoughts, that's your brain constantly processing, organizing, evaluating. And for a significant number of people, that inner voice doesn't always stay inside. It comes out, spoken into the air, especially when no one else is around. This isn't a glitch in your behavior. It's not a sign of loneliness. And it definitely doesn't mean you're losing control. It means your brain is using one of its most natural tools to function more effectively. Your mind handles an overwhelming number of thoughts every single day. Most of them don't arrive in neat, organized sentences. They're messy, overlapping fragments, half-formed ideas, reminders, worries, plans, all competing for your attention at the same time. It's like having dozens of browser tabs open, each trying to load at once. When those thoughts stay internal, they can blur together. You feel busy, but not necessarily clear. You're thinking, but not always processing. The moment you speak out loud, something changes. You take those scattered pieces and force them into a sequence. One word follows another. One idea leads into the next. You're essentially turning chaos into structure. It's like you're lining up your thoughts in a single file instead of letting them pile up on top of each other. And that's where the shift happens. You don't just hear your thoughts, you understand them. This is closely tied to what psychologists call the production effect. When you actively produce words, when you say them instead of just thinking them, your brain treats that information differently. It becomes more vivid, more organized, and easier to process. Speaking creates a kind of mental anchor. It grounds your thoughts. Now, clarity naturally leads into something else. Focus. Think about the last time you misplaced something important. Maybe your phone, your keys, or even something small but urgent. What did you do? If you're like most people who talk to themselves, you probably started saying things out loud without even thinking. Where did I leave it? It was here a minute ago. Check the table. No, maybe the other room. That's where talking to yourself becomes more than just helpful. It becomes stabilizing. When you say something like, "All right, calm down, think this through," what's actually going on here? You're doing something subtle but powerful. You're stepping outside the emotion, even if just slightly. This is known as distanced self-talk. Instead of being fully immersed in the feeling, you shift into the role of an observer. You're still experiencing the emotion, but you're also analyzing it at the same time. It's like watching yourself from a small distance rather than being completely consumed. That distance creates space, and in that space you gain control. You start to question your reactions instead of just following them. You slow things down enough to make better decisions. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about understanding them before they take over. In a way, it's like debugging your own thoughts. You identify what's going wrong before it spirals further. And the people who do this regularly, they tend to handle stress more effectively, not because they don't feel it, but because they know how to respond to it. That's not weakness, it's awareness. And when you combine clarity, focus, and emotional control, you end up with something that ties all of it together. Self-motivation. There are days when everything feels heavy. Tasks seem bigger than they actually are. Starting feels harder than continuing. And in those moments, silence can make things worse. It leaves you alone with resistance. As people grow older, that external speech often becomes internal. It turns into silent thought. But for some, it never fully disappears. And that's not a flaw, it's continuity. It means you've held onto a tool that was always meant to help you navigate the world. Instead of pushing it entirely inward, you still use it outwardly when it's useful. And this isn't just a modern behavior, it goes back much further. Long before structured environments and constant communication, people relied on self-talk as a way to stay oriented and alert. When alone in unfamiliar surroundings, speaking aloud helped maintain focus. It kept the mind engaged, prevented distraction, and reinforced awareness of the environment, whether it was planning, remembering, or simply staying mentally sharp. This habit served a purpose. And it still does. But there's an important distinction that needs to be made here. Because not all self-talk works the same way. There's a difference between speaking to guide yourself and speaking in a way that pulls you down. When your self-talk helps you solve problems, stay focused, manage emotions, or motivate yourself, it's constructive. It moves you forward. It strengthens your ability to think and respond. But when it becomes repetitive, negative, or overly critical, when it starts reinforcing fear instead of clarity, that's when it's worth paying attention. It's not about whether you talk to yourself, it's about how you do it. A supportive inner voice can act like a coach. A harsh one can act like a critic. And the impact of each is completely different. So the next time you notice yourself speaking out loud in an empty room, don't rush to judge it. Don't label it as strange or unnecessary. Instead, recognize what's actually happening. You're organizing your thoughts. You're sharpening your focus. You're regulating your emotions. You're motivating yourself to move forward. You're using a deeply human tool that has existed for generations, quietly helping people think, adapt, and function more effectively. And once you see it that way, the question changes. It's no longer, why am I talking to myself? It becomes, how can I use this better? Because the habit itself isn't the problem. In many cases, it's part of the solution.